You ever have someone you love humiliate you so deeply that your ears start ringing and your whole body freezes? That's exactly what happened to me the night my girlfriend shouted, "You'll never be good enough," loud enough for everyone in the room to stare at me. And believe me, what happened afterward changed everything for me. Welcome to Amelia's Stories. Stay with me, here we share real moments from real people, moments that teach us, break us, and sometimes rebuild us. If you're new here, let me know where you're watching from and feel free to stick around for more stories like this. My name is Ethan Mercer. I'm not flashy, I'm not loud. I work as an auto machinist, the kind of job where your hands stay dirty but your mind stays steady. My girlfriend, Lana Ridley, was the complete opposite. She was sharp, charming, always dressed like she was headed somewhere important. People liked her the second she walked into a room. That night, we were at my brother's house for a small family get-together. Everyone was laughing, eating, catching up. I thought everything was fine. Then Lana made one comment, then another, each one sharper than the last. Before I could even understand what was happening, she raised her voice and said those words that felt like a punch straight to my chest. "You'll never be good enough." The room went silent. I felt the shame, the heat in my face, the sting in my throat. I walked out, but deep down I knew she didn't say that by accident. Something else was behind it. Looking back, the signs were there long before that night. Things between Lana and me hadn't fallen apart suddenly. They had been breaking piece by piece, so quietly that I convinced myself nothing was wrong. It started with her tone. She used to smile when I talked about my work, but lately she sighed, rolled her eyes, or acted like she didn't have time to listen. Small comments like, "You don't understand," or, "Can you just try harder?" became normal. Then came the nights she said she had to work late. At first I believed her. She was a paralegal and her job could be demanding. But the late nights became more frequent and her explanations became shorter. Sometimes she came home distant, almost irritated that I asked how her day went. Other times she acted overly cheerful, like she was trying too hard to look normal. I finally talked to my older sister, Mara. She's the one person who never sugarcoats anything. I told her how different Lana had been acting, how she seemed impatient with me over everything. Mara didn't hesitate, she said something felt off. Not just stress or bad moods, but something deeper. She told me to pay attention not to her words but to her patterns. That's when I started noticing small inconsistencies. Lana saying she was exhausted from work but returning with fresh makeup. Her phone always flipped face down. Her sudden need for space when she never needed it before. The cracks had been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. The truth came out on a quiet afternoon when I wasn't looking for anything. Lana had asked me to grab her jacket from the backseat of her car. While reaching for it, a folded paper slipped out of the pocket. I picked it up without thinking, assuming it was a parking receipt. But the bold print at the top made my chest tighten. An upscale mountain cabin, reserved under Lana's name, for 2 guests. My first thought was that it had to be a mistake. Maybe it was for a work retreat. Maybe she booked it for a friend. But the dates were recent, and the name on the confirmation matched hers exactly. My gut twisted in a way I couldn't ignore anymore. I followed my instinct. I started by checking the rental website, and the cabin was clearly meant for couples. Romantic decor, private hot tub, sunset view. Nothing about it looked like a work event. My hands shook, but I kept searching. A few hours later, through a mutual friend who worked in the same building, I got the piece of information that shattered everything. Lana hadn't been working late. She had been meeting Caleb Rourke, one of the senior attorneys at her firm. They'd been seen leaving together more than once. The worst part wasn't even the affair. It was what she'd been saying about me. According to people at her office, she told Caleb and others that I was dead weight. Someone who held her back and wasn't worth building a future with. Hearing that hurt more than the cheating itself. I waited until Lana got home, hoping some part of her would tell the truth. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I just placed the cabin receipt on the table and asked her to explain. For a moment her eyes widened, but she recovered fast. She crossed her arms and said I was being dramatic, that I was twisting things in my head. "You're insecure, Ethan. That's the real problem," she said, as if I had imagined everything. When I brought up Caleb's name, she didn't deny knowing him. Instead, she smirked and said he actually appreciated her, unlike me. She tossed in a few comments about my job, calling it small and going nowhere. Every word felt like she was pushing me deeper into the ground. I had loved this woman, supported her, trusted her, and now she looked at me like I was beneath her. I asked her one last time if she had anything honest to say. She shrugged and told me Caleb understood her ambitions, something I never could. That was the moment something inside me cracked. I realized I was begging for respect from someone who had already thrown me away emotionally. I walked out of the apartment before she could say anything else. The night air felt cold, but it was quieter than the storm inside me. I drove to my sister Mara's place, and when she saw my face, she didn't need details. She listened, then told me something simple but powerful. She's not worth the pieces she broke in you. For the first time, I believed she might be right. The morning after everything fell apart, I forced myself to go to work. Keeping my hands busy was the only way to quiet the thoughts spinning in my head. I moved slower than usual, distracted, but I still tried to focus on the engine I was rebuilding. My boss, Franklin Hale, noticed right away. He wasn't the kind of man who pried, but he had a sharp eye for people. At lunch, he called me into his office. I expected a lecture about being off my game, but instead he asked, "You all right, son?" Something about his voice made the truth spill out. Not the details, just that things at home had blown up. He nodded like he had seen this kind of pain before. Then he surprised me. "I've been meaning to talk to you," he said, pulling out a folder. Inside was information about a performance engine design apprenticeship. A program that only a handful of mechanics in the region ever got into. "I've been considering you for it," he continued. "You've got real talent, Ethan. You just don't see it yet." I stared at the papers, not believing they were meant for me. Lana had spent years making me feel like I wasn't capable of more, like my dreams were too small. Hearing Franklin say he believed in my skills hit me harder than I expected. It felt like someone had flipped on a light in a room I didn't know was dark. For the first time in a long while, I imagined a future without Lana's voice dragging me down. A future I could build on my own. After thinking it over for a few days, I accepted the apprenticeship. The decision felt like a door opening, one I didn't even know I had the right to walk through before. I didn't tell Lana. I didn't tell anyone besides Mara and Franklin. I just focused on showing up, learning, and keeping my life moving forward. The more time I spent at the shop, the lighter I felt, like pieces of myself were slowly returning. Meanwhile, Lana seemed to be living in her own world. I heard from a couple of mutual friends that she was showing up to gatherings with Caleb, acting like she had upgraded her life. She wasn't content with just moving on. She wanted to reshape the story. People told me she called me emotionally unstable, said I was obsessed with her, and even claimed I had made her life stressful. It stung at first, but I realized something important. She needed lies to protect her pride. I didn't. So instead of confronting her again or trying to prove anything, I let her talk. Every twisted version she spread only showed people the kind of person she was. I stayed quiet, worked hard, and poured everything into the apprenticeship. My revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be dramatic. It would be simple, rising so steadily that her attempts to tear me down looked childish in comparison. I wanted the truth and my success to speak for me. And slowly it started to. While I was quietly rebuilding my life, Lana's carefully created world started slipping out of her hands. It began when Caleb's wife, Miranda Rourke, finally uncovered the truth about the affair. Miranda was known for being calm, but when she confronted them at Caleb's office, the scene was anything but quiet. People said you could hear her shouting from the hallway. Lana tried to defend herself, but Caleb immediately scrambled to save his marriage. He blamed everything on Lana, insisting she had misled him, pushed him, tempted him. He acted like he was the victim and she was the problem. Word spread fast. By the end of the week, half the office knew what happened. Lana's coworkers, the same ones she once bragged to about her upgrade, now watched her with judgment in their eyes. Some whispered. Some avoided her. A few even enjoyed seeing the downfall of someone who had acted superior for so long. Her lies began to unravel too. The stories she told about me, calling me unstable and insecure, didn't match the calm, steady person people actually knew. Once Caleb distanced himself to repair his marriage, Lana was left exposed. She lost her support, her confidence, and the image she worked so hard to project. Rumors about her lack of professionalism spread through the firm, and clients began requesting different paralegals. She was no longer seen as the confident, charming woman she pretended to be. For the first time, Lana felt the very humiliation she had once thrown at me without hesitation. The invitation came out of nowhere. A formal charity event hosted by Franklin's engineering partners. It was the type of event people dressed up for, the kind Lana used to talk about like it was her natural environment. I wasn't nervous. I had been working hard, learning more every day, and for once I felt like I actually belonged somewhere new. When I walked into the venue, I saw polished floors, soft lights, and people who carried themselves with quiet confidence. What I didn't expect was to see Lana standing near the back, trying to smile like her world hadn't fallen apart. She noticed me almost instantly. Her expression shifted from surprise to relief, and she hurried over. "Then, can we talk?" she said softly, almost trembling. She tried to apologize, tried to spin her actions into something understandable. She even hinted at how rough things had been for her lately, hoping for sympathy. But I didn't come unprepared. Calmly, I laid out the truth. The cabin receipt, the office witnesses who had seen her with Caleb, the co-workers who overheard her calling me deadweight. Lana's face tightened with panic as each piece lined up perfectly, leaving no space for excuses. A couple of people nearby heard everything, and their reactions told the story for me. She tried to lash out, raising her voice, accusing me of making things up, but the room wasn't on her side anymore. Her contradictions slipped out faster than she could catch them. By the time she fell silent, her credibility had shattered in front of exactly the kind of crowd she always wanted to impress. I didn't have to raise my voice. The truth did all the work. A few days after the charity event, Lana tracked me down. She cornered me in the quiet of the office parking lot, her eyes desperate, her voice shaking. "Ian, please. I messed up. Caleb is gone, my life is falling apart. I just want you back," she pleaded. For a moment I felt the old pull, the memories of what I had loved about her, but I quickly reminded myself of everything she had done. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply looked at her, taking in the weight of her own mistakes reflected in her eyes. "Lana," I said slowly, "I spent years thinking I wasn't good enough because of you. I believed your words, your insults, your comparisons. I let your voice decide my worth for far too long." She tried to interrupt, tried to twist my words, but I held my ground. "I'm done letting anyone else define me," I continued. "Especially someone who treated me like I didn't matter." Her face fell as she realized there would be no more explanations, no second chances. I turned toward my car, feeling the solid strength of the decisions I had made over the past months. The apprenticeship, the work, the calm rebuilding of my life. Every step away from her was a step toward myself. Behind me I could hear her soft, broken sobs, but I didn't look back. I knew I had finally reclaimed my future. That night as I started my car and drove off, I felt lighter, freer, and stronger than I had in years. Months passed and life began to feel steady in a way I hadn't known for years. The apprenticeship I had once doubted became a place where I could finally test my skills, learn new techniques, and see my own potential grow. Every engine I repaired or designed reminded me of what I could accomplish when I believed in myself. For the first time, success didn't feel hollow. It felt earned. It was during one of my routine trips to pick up supplies for the shop that I met Cassidy Wynn. She was an ER nurse, quick with a smile, but patient and attentive in a way that made people feel safe. There was no pretense with her, no judgment. We started talking, first about work, then about small life stories, and gradually our conversations stretched longer. She listened without trying to fix me, and that simple empathy slowly built trust between us. We didn't rush anything. There were no grand declarations, no instant chemistry cliches. Just quiet dinners, coffee runs, and the kind of connection that felt real and attainable. It was a new rhythm. One that taught me how to open up without fear, how to enjoy someone's company without losing myself in the process. Reflecting on everything, I didn't feel bitterness. Lana's betrayal had hurt deeply, yes, but it also forced me to find strength I never knew I had. That pain became a doorway, not a prison. I stepped through it, and for the first time in a long while, I felt fully alive, ready to embrace life on my own terms.